So rendering some HTML with some context is a very powerful thing, without a doubt. But that's not why you build a web application. You build a web application to have aspects of being smart. That is, it remembers things. That's a big part of the reason you build a web application. Sure, if you're just building a website and you want something with really nice, clean URLs, yeah, you could do what we've already done. I mean, and pretty much stop there, with the exception of maybe using a server, bringing it live to make it a real website. But what we want to do is actually be able to collect data and remember data. We want to be able to do those things. So if you're familiar with HTML, you might know of an HTML form. So let's go ahead and create a form on our contact page. So since my contact page is going to be different than my home page, it's going to be very different. I'm going to go ahead and just put in a new page in here and call it contact page. But I'm going to do it one step further, and I'm just going to say contact/view.html. So notice that I've actually changed some things here. So let's go ahead and save that. And I'm going to come in here and say contact. I hit enter. I get this template does not exist error. Now, number one, the reason it doesn't exist because we haven't created it. Number two, we haven't even created the directory for it, but it gives us a hint. It looks inside of src templates contact view. Now, inside of that templates folder, if we go in here, we don't actually have something called contact. So let's make one, and I'll say contact. And in there, in that folder, all I need to do is add something called view.html. So I'm going to go ahead and copy that home page all over again and paste it in here for view. We save that and we refresh in here. What do you know? It's back to where it was. Although it's different now. It's no longer homepage.html. So everything that I changed on view.html also changes or does not also change on homepage.html. So let's go ahead and change our content a little bit. That is, let's add in a form. So we're going to use the form tag here, and I'm going to close it off. And inside of this form, for a contact page, I might want to say something like name. So input type equals to text, and we'll say placeholder equals to name. And we'll also add value is name. Or rather, not value, but name is, we'll call it full name as one word. Okay, so we save that, refresh, and we've got a new tag here. If I really wanted to go nuts, I can add a class here and say form control, because that is allowing us to use the Bootstrap styling. And let's go even more nuts, and I'll just add a class around it called column 6 or column SM6 and then column 12. Again, we'll go over those things later, but it's still cool to see it in action. Okay, so it's now styled a little bit better, and we can write some stuff in here. One thing that it doesn't have is a button to input everything. So we can just say button type equals to submit, and I'll add a class, some Bootstrap stuff, btn default, and I'll just say submit. Okay, refresh in here, and I've got my submit button. Now, if I click on submit, I see up here, it says full name equals to. So by default, there's this method in here called get. And that's actually the default method. If I hit submit, it does what's called a get call. We're going to talk about get later, but for now, I'm going to just say post. I actually want to send this data to my backend, so I'll use something called post. Again, we're going to go into this a lot more detail later. So if you have questions on that, please hold on to the later sections. So we have this post method. I hit enter. I get this thing called CSRF verification failed. This is a security measure. So to solve that, I am going to use something in Django, CSRF underscore token. And that's it. So you're going to put that inside of your form. That renders out the necessary security related stuff. I hit submit now. Actually, let's get rid of this URL stuff. I hit submit. Nothing comes up here. Nothing seems to happen. Well, that's because our view doesn't actually have a way to handle this. So much like when we navigate to a page, we can click on this and hit enter. That navigation is bringing us to that page. When we submit a form, it's kind of like that navigation. It's a different kind of request. In our case, the kind of request it is a post request. So we can actually see this in our terminal. We can see the things that are happening. We see that there's a GET request, and that is when I click on it, it's a GET request. When I hit the form, it's a post request, as we see here. So that means that potentially some data is coming through from that form. So I can come in here and say if request.method equals to post, I can print request.post. Okay? So let's go ahead and look at this. I'm going to go ahead and just hit enter here. I look at my terminal. I have nothing. I just have this one GET call. And I'm going to say ABC for that name, and I'll hit submit. The name goes away, which is nice. But then we have inside of here, we have this query dictionary saying full name. So we're actually getting that data. So I can also print out request.post.get. And in our case, we called it full name. So I can get that dictionary item or that key value pair. Which this is a dictionary here. Notice that CSRF middleware token that's coming from the security stuff here. But the rest is there. So I'm going to go ahead and save that. Refresh in here, hit continue. Now I have that original post data as well as the input that I actually put in there. So we can test this with some more inputs. Let's go ahead and do that. I'll say name. Let's just go ahead and say email. I'm going to change this to being email and the type being email. And then I'll even do a text area and I'll give it a name of content and placeholder being your content. Refresh in here. Oops. Let's go ahead and refresh in here. Oh, we forgot one thing, and that's adding this class of form control on here. There we go. So now we've got our name, email, content. So I say, Justin, hello@teamcfe.com, and my message. I hit submit. It clears out the message. We go into our terminal. We see all of this content. We come back into our view. We can print out each one of those things. So we got full name, we've got email, and we've got content. And I'm going to go ahead and get rid of this post data here. Refresh, hit continue on the form submission, and we see all of that data. Cool. So that is how we can actually use a form. Now, this is actually problematic for many reasons, which we'll go into later, but one of the main ones being, hey, what if we want to make sure that this is not an email? So if I do abc@gmail.com, I don't have any errors showing up. In fact, I wouldn't have any errors showing up at all. That's something we need to address, and that's what we'll do using Django Forms.